Then let us start with the session for today. So in the last session we were done with QC, right? And did we started discussing about Selenium? Anything? No? Okay. Okay. So the next tool that we have to take up is an automation tool. Okay. And we would be taking Selenium now. See, up till now, the tool that we discussed was QC, okay, and that was not a test automation tool at all. That was a test management tool. Okay, over there you all must have seen that we only were the people who were doing everything. We were writing down the requirements. We were writing down the um, test cases. Okay, then after that we were jotting down, we were executing the test cases in the test lab tab, and whatever were the actual results, that also we were jotting down. And then in the defect tab we were, whatever were the defects which were found while executing the test cases, those defects were submitted over there to the development team, and all the things were arranged. So only the the purpose of that tool was to document all the things and to keep the document at a centralized position, so that if any moment of time we want to access any of the things, or we want to use any of the things, so we don't need to give mails to each other, so that that would be a problem. Okay, so all the people who need to have the list of the documents or the requirements, so all those things, so all those people were provided with their own login IDs and password, and then they were able to access the things. Okay, but over here in Selenium the case would be totally different. Okay, that would be as we all know that it is a test automation tool. Okay, so it would automate, or you can say the test cases will be executed via using this tool. Okay, we manually we don't have to execute the test cases, but yes, we will have to follow certain rules and regulations which are there for the test automation tools. That all things we need to discuss over here in Selenium. But before that, Kirti, you are saying that for Selenium we need to know we have to have the knowledge of Java. Um, you should actually understand the script, I would say. Okay, and that is actually the JavaScript and the HTML tags and many more things are there. So you should be able to understand that, I would say, at a very initial phase. Okay, so nobody would be like, when you're entering into the industry, nobody would be giving you the tool and would ask you to just to write down scripting language onto that. Okay, so that would not be the case. But yes, if you have the knowledge, then it is always a plus point. Okay. Okay, so it is a test automation tool. Okay, and this tool itself is divided into three components. Okay, so there are some components of the Selenium tool, and we'll discuss about those components. So the first component is the Selenium ID, that is the integrated development environment. Okay, now what will happen over here in Selenium IDE? See, basically the Selenium IDE, or you can say the Selenium, it is actually used for testing the web-based applications only. Okay, so I should write it over here itself that it is a test automation tool to test the web-based applications only. Okay, so no desktop applications could be automated via using the Selenium tool. Okay, now as I told that it is used only for web-based applications, but this component of Selenium, that is the Selenium IDE, okay, it supports only Mozilla Firefox. Okay, so if you have to execute the test cases by using the component Selenium IDE, then you can execute those test cases only in Mozilla Firefox. Okay, so for that Selenium IDE, you need to have a plugin in Firefox browser. Then only you would be able to execute the test cases. Okay, so it supports only the Mozilla Firefox browser. Okay, and what are the uses of this tool or this Selenium IDE is what we can do. See, in any of the test automation tool, test automation tool, it is based upon the mechanism of record and playback. Okay, whether it is Selenium or whether you talk about QTP. So any of the test automation tool, it is always based upon this mechanism, record and playback. Now what is this record and playback? You need to first record the test cases, or you can say that you need to first, as you do in videos, right? Take a very non-technical example. So if you try to capture a video, what you are going to do? You are first going to record it. Okay, and whenever you want to see that video, what you are going to do? You are going to play it back. Okay, so similarly over here also, whatever test cases you want to execute, those test cases are first recorded, and then if you want to do some modifications or if you don't want to do the modifications, whatever are the things, so then you can play it back with modifications or without modifications. That depends actually upon the scenario that you are working upon. Okay, but every test automation tool, it is based upon this mechanism only, which is record and then playback. Okay, so what you are going to do over here, you are going to first record a test case. Okay, and then play it back. Okay, then one more thing could be done over here, and the Selenium IDE is, see, the Selenium IDE, it supports many languages, you can say. Okay, many scripting languages are supported by Selenium IDE. So basically it supports the 5 scripting languages, I would say. Okay, so you can export your script in any of those scripting languages. Okay, so it is used to export the script in the different languages. And what are those languages? So those are the C#. Okay, then after that, let me just write it down over here only. Then is the Java. Then after that, it also supports Perl. Then it supports Python. Okay, this is also one of the scripting languages. And then it also supports Ruby. So these all are the scripting languages which are actually being supported by Selenium IDE, and you can, whatever script you have recorded, okay, because as we already know that we have to first record a test case. Okay, so when you are recording a test case, a script would be generated. Then if you want to export that script into any of the languages, so you can export it, or in simple words you can say that you can convert the scripting language from C# to Java, from Java to Perl or Python or Ruby. So these are the 5 scripting languages which it supports. Okay, so this is about Selenium IDE. Then after that there is one more component in Selenium, and that is known as Selenium RC. Okay, RC means remote control. Okay, so like when the Selenium was first launched, okay, so over there it was known as, this component was known as Selenium RC. Okay, and it was used with this name only, but nowadays it is called as Selenium WebDriver. Okay, but see, if you have to like the people who are the freshers like you, who are try to understand, and who are like using any of the test automation tool, especially Selenium for the very first time. Okay, so for them, initially it is said that you have to understand Selenium IDE only. Okay, until and unless you are able to understand Selenium IDE, you won't be able to understand the other 2 components, that is the WebDriver and the last component, that is the grid. Okay, so you can say that this is the prerequisite to understand the other 2 components. Okay, so over here in our course, as I told you that if you have to prepare for the interview point of things, or as you would be joining as freshers in IT as a QA people. Okay, so for them it is okay if you are aware with the Selenium IDE only. Okay, so over here in Bhagya we would be dealing with Selenium IDE only. We won't be dealing with Selenium RC, the WebDriver, or the third component, which is the Selenium grid. Okay, so what is done over here in Selenium? See, as I told you that it is used for testing the web-based applications. Okay, now web-based application, you can open any of the if it is a web-based application, so it would be able to execute in all the browsers. Okay, but over here in Selenium IDE there was a restriction that it could be used only in Firefox browser. Okay, but over here in Selenium grid, what you can do is you can execute all the test cases in multiple browsers. Okay, and also you can execute the multiple scripts also. Okay, at one time only I can execute some 20 test cases, okay, in 4 different types of systems. Okay, let me just explain it to you by example. Suppose say like I want to execute, I have some 20 Selenium scripts. Okay, and now I want them to be automated in 4 different systems. Okay, and the first system which I am having, so this first system is having some different configuration. So it is supporting actually, or it is having the OS as um, Windows 8. Okay, and with that it is having the browser as Google Chrome. Okay, and suppose say this second system, it is having Second one, it is having Windows 7. Okay. Okay. So if it is having Windows 7 with say Safari browser. Okay. And the third one is having say Mac. Okay. As OS, and over there is a Firefox browser. Okay. And the fourth one, suppose it is having what is the browser we can use? Okay, if it is having Linux. Okay, and the browser is again say Google Chrome only. Okay, so if I want to now execute these 20 Selenium scripts in these different browsers and different OS, okay, so what I'll have to do, if I have to like I'll go to the first system, okay, and then try to execute the 20 Selenium scripts. Okay, then I'll go to the second system, then try to execute the another like the same 20 Selenium scripts. But over here, the grid, if you are using the Selenium grid, what you can do is you can execute these 20 Selenium scripts at one time in these four different systems at one go. Okay, so you'll keep all the 20 Selenium scripts in the centralized position. Okay, and attach all the four systems to it. Okay, and then they would be taking up the scripts one by one and will be executing it. Okay, so the first five scripts would be taken by, suppose say, by the first system, the next five by the second, the next five by the third, and the next five by the fourth, and then they would interchange. So it would help me save the time. No, Sakib, I told that Selenium IDE has the restriction that it can be used only in Firefox browser. Okay, over here in Grid, you can use it in different browsers. This is the one of the good part of Selenium Grid. And also the another point is which is like a plus point for Selenium Grid is you can execute all the 20 scripts, keeping the scripts at a centralized position with different like you can attach all the four systems and then keep the scripts at a centralized position, and then they will take all the scripts turn by turn, which will help you reduce the time in execution. Okay, so like maybe in 10-20 minutes only the scripting or the execution would be done. Okay, which may take an hour if you go one by one to each of the system and try to execute it. Okay, because before you can say that before delivering the things to the client, okay, you need to test for the configuration and the compatibility also, that whether the web-based application that you have prepared, if it is working on all the browsers or not. Okay, and you need to also check that whether with all the different OS also it is compatible or not. Okay, so you need to check for all those things. So these could be done over here at one time only. Okay, if you say suppose go take 20 Selenium scripts to the first system and try to execute it, because you need to check that whether they are working with Windows 8 or not, okay, and they are working in Google Chrome or not, and then next 20 minutes for the second computer, then for the third, next 20 minutes for the third, then next 20 for the fourth. But if I am using Selenium script, or sorry, Selenium grid, then I can keep all the 20 Selenium scripts at a centralized position. Some five scripts would be taken by each of the system, then they would interchange. So in that way, the things would be distributed and it would take less time. Okay, and all the compatibility and the configuration testing will also be done for each of the system. Okay, so this is about the Selenium grid. But as I told you that we would be restricting to Selenium IDE only. Okay, so this would be our main point of concentration, that how we have to execute the things or how we have to use the Selenium IDE. Okay, so are you all clear with the components and all? Okay. Now see, apart from the components, there is one more thing that we need to understand before